Hi, this is Stan. Welcome back to the Crow's Nest Railroad. Well, we're going to make some sparks today. We got some more work to do on these ore cars, so stay tuned. Well, we're on the road over here at the intergalactic headquarters of the Robert Starr Engineering firm, and got to do some more work today on these pieces of steel. Bob's got them cut already. We got to weld these together. Before we can weld them up, we're going to pre-drill the holes. This is the frame for these two ore cars that need to be done. Last time we talked about it, we drilled out some holes in the other frame. Got to make a second frame today. We're going to pre-drill the holes this time and then weld the frame together. So lots of sparks, lots of fun. Let's get to it. If you remember from last time, here's the frame for that first ore car. We got the holes pre-drilled for these pockets here that are going to hold the bearings and the axles for the wheels. So now we're going to do the same thing here, except we're going to measure and pre-drill these pieces first. Then we're going to weld them up. Bob's already got the 45s cut on all four of these pieces, so that's going to save us a lot of time. Okay, while I'm starting to get some of the welding equipment set up, Bob is mounting the two side pieces of the frame on the mill, and he's marked where the holes go. He's centering it right now with, what do you call that bit where you're finding the center?
Well, this is simply a scribe that I've taken the handle off of, and I put it in my mill chuck here, which is nothing more than a keyless chuck. I just turn it by hand and it locks the jaws in place, tight enough to drill. And I'm just going to pick this point up, and then I'm going to come over and pick up the second hole. There's nothing precisely critical. These are monster castings. Their error of accuracy is plus or minus 30 thousandths of an inch. So in this case, I'm just going to eyeball the center line here, come down the required distance here, and put the holes in. Then flip it around, do the same thing again.
Gotcha. Well, we drilled this all by hand last time.
We did.
And of course the castings you're talking about are not these box.
No, they were the journal box castings that you saw in the previous video. So in this case, I'm just going to easily drill through this now instead of that big vertical handheld drill jig that we were using in pre-drilling with lots of small holes. I'm going to start off with a 1/4 inch hole to begin with, and then I'll ramp up to the 3/8 inch that I need.
Excellent.
in two passes. So it's much simpler now that I thought about how to assemble the whole thing versus having welded it all together and then thinking, oh, I needed holes in there.
And while Bob is doing that, we've got the welding equipment set up. Since I don't weld a lot, I've only done a couple of different projects, so I set up a couple of scraps, and I'm going to tack this 45 corner together, and then I'm going to do a little bit of sample welding just to make sure I still have the touch, and then we can proceed. Alright, well, that was me grinding, and I didn't show you the welding because I didn't want the stick welding police to come and arrest me and arrest Bob for letting me weld in his driveway. So anyway, a couple days later, on to the next task. So here's a little better shot of the frame and the ore car axles. Doesn't that look cool? It's just like really nice dimensions to it. Bob's got it set up with the old chop saw and the groveling pad. That should be facing east, I think.
I'm thinking so, but in this case, Stan, we're going to use this vise as the stop for cutting each of these pieces so they get a fairly accurate length to them, because we're going to be beveling them for inside 45-degree corners, and nothing's worse than to have one or two of them are off by 1/4 of an inch or so, and then you end up with a sloppy looking job, and by golly, we are not into sloppy looking jobs at Roper Star Engineering.
Right, absolutely, here at the Intergalactic headquarters. Now some of the lowly outlying branches, you know, in the asteroid belt and stuff, they don't do so well, but
all right, Stanley, let's go to work.
Cool. All right, so you guys remember this drawing from last time. We've got this additional drawing. So we're going to have slats in the back of the car and slats on like a 60-degree angle going up the front, which means that each of these timbers on the side are going to have to be cut to length rather than one length. However, the backs and the fronts can all be done the same length. Bob's got this all drawn out just very beautifully here. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to just do this test first layer, because we've got this angle and we're going to be 45ing, and then we've got some angle that's going to patch up the joint, and then this whole thing is going to get skinned with metal. So anyway, I'm not going to show you just groveling on the ground making a million cuts with the chop saw, but that's our plan. Okay, we've been doing some cuts on the chop saw here. You can picture this as being the side of the ore car. That piece here on that 30-degree or 60-degree angle, however you look at it, that's just to show us the finish angle so that we can determine the cutoffs here. So we've got these all laid out. We know the angles are going to work, and we really didn't have to figure the length on any of these pieces. Once I had this first piece cut and an angle, now I know what this is like, and we can just fit them in, and this whole layout on the ground is a jig, really. So now we're just going to cut 4 of these angled pieces for the opposite side of the ore car while I've got the chop saw set up at our 30-degree angle. Then we'll trim them off at 90, and then we'll just do all the back cuts and the front cuts, which are all the same length. And just one other point, with these wide boards, Bob's chop saw will not trim them all the way through. And so, yes, we could just trim this with a hand saw. I can't really lift it up into the saw like I can on a 90. So we are just going to flip this board over once we have the cuts made and use the chop saw to finish this little angle, because it'll be in the back of the saw. Alright, and as you can see, we have now 2 sides for our ore car, all of them cut with a 90 on the backs, 8 pieces, and our 30 on the fronts. And I think it saved us a lot of brain drain to fit that bottom piece first and then slope the angle up. Instead of cutting a custom dimension on all the other pieces, we were able to put a straight edge here, mark our lines, and do all of our 30-degree cuts, and then come back and chop everything to final length with 90 degrees on the chop saw. So now let's finish up the remaining front and the back pieces, which are all the same width. Okay, so stack of 4 and 4 for the back and for the front. And if you've been thinking about it, you'll probably have figured out that 4 is not going to be sufficient on the front because of that angle. So what we'll do is we'll build it with the first 4, and when we finish both the hoppers on both the cars, then we will trim an angled piece to go at the very top on the front on both ore cars. Alright, so we've got 1 hopper done, and because we're just dying to see what it looks like, we're going to do what Norm says, or said, time for some assembly. 3 syllables, assembly. So let's get busy. And there's layer number 1 tacked together. So rinse and repeat. And level 2. Bob's not sure what he wants to do on the bottom yet, if we're going to skin it with a piece of ply, or if we're going to put planks across. And here you can see what we're up against here, because these are angled and we bevel cut the bottom one flush. We're going to have to add a 5th piece at the very top to fill in the final gap. But no problem, we'll rip that on the table saw like we put the angle on this bottom one. And there's level 3. And to kind of help us out, we just put a little tack strip in the corner. This is going to have stringers in each corner on the inside before we're done. And as we mentioned before, now that our overlap is happening, then we're able to fire a screw in the previous layer, so that automatically holds the front together. So we just put a little stringer in the back to tie it together right now. And there she is, level 4. I think that's kind of a cute look. Well, the Orcar just got offended, but it's got that boxy look to it. And now Bob will figure out what he needs to do across the bottom, and then we'll get some stringers, and then all of this on the outside gets metal clad, and then there'll be some steel angle that will protect the corners. Here's a look at the inside. Very cool. And look at this wheels and axle set. Real Orcar stuff. This is on its way to the Crow's Nest Railroad. Awesome. But more on that later. Bob and I are going to say goodbye. We're done for the day. It's about 400 degrees in the shade Fahrenheit. So, hey, thanks for watching. We'll keep you up to date on the progress on these Orcars, 2 of them. See you later. Don't go away.